Some time ago, I created a small list video on the top 5 lost or cancelled DreamWorks movie projects. Well, since then, I found at least 5 more interesting DW projects, where for one reason or another, they never quite came to fruition. Or they did, but they just got some missing pieces of media to them, like an alternative cut or deleted scenes. So today, let's look at the what if of lost DreamWorks projects. Oh, and also, if this sounds like your kind of cup of tea and you haven't already, then be sure to subscribe so you can join me along the journey of learning about more missing media. Okay, enough of the context. Let's now have a little cheeky look on what could have been. One year before the release of Chicken Run, the first collaborative feature project between Aardman and DreamWorks had already announced their next feature project, titled The Tortoise Vs The Hare, based on the classic Aesop tale called, well, The Tortoise and the Hare. Their first feature film, Chicken Run, took about 2.5 years to complete. The Tortoise vs. the Hare got as far as 16 months in development, but was stuck in production limbo. Reportedly, actors kept on coming in and out of the project. Sets were built ready to go, only then to be completely teared down without any animation taking place. The film would be completely cancelled by 2001. In an interview of Ain't It Cool News, a source cited that the red flags for the film should have been immediate and obvious to everybody involved, as it was a production completely doomed from the start. Exactly what the precise details was of the juicy drama will likely remain to be a mystery, and any assets of the film that were completed are still locked away in the DreamWorks and Aardman archives. While we got the Wallace and Gromit movie in its place, there's still a side of me that's extremely curious of what this original Aardman production was going to be like. In 2015, The Hollywood Reporter revealed that DreamWorks were within the early stages of making a movie based on the mobile app game Plants vs. Zombies. Director Roy Lee was supposedly attached to the project, although it's worth stating that DreamWorks never officially announced it to the public, and we only know about the movie's inception thanks to some leaks. No additional inside source have provided any more information about the film's progress. With things being quiet for so long, the film doesn't look likely to be made. It's worth noting that the first leak of the movie's development came about in early 2015, right after 2014, which DreamWorks went for a lot of financial loss during that time frame, and led to the cancellation of many other movies. So Plants vs. Zombies may have very well been a victim of the cancellation. Or maybe it was a project never deemed to be financially viable to begin with, hence why there was never an official statement from DreamWorks. There's still a huge air of mystery surrounding Plants vs. Zombies. Hopefully someday, somebody can come forward and can provide some much needed clarity. The success of Shark Tale couldn't come at a better time when it was released, as prior to this DreamWorks was not doing so well with its animated features, as during the 2000s with the exception of Shrek, their other films completely tanked at the box office. Shark Tale was the studio's 4th CGI feature, or 3rd if we don't count sequels, instead only going off the original IPs. Shark Tale on its worldwide box office was just shy of grossing $400 million, and it was nominated at the Oscars for being one of the best animated movies of the year. DreamWorks fans don't exactly consider Shark Tale to be one of the best animated features from the DW canon, but hey, there's still a cornerstone of the internet that have deemed this movie meme-worthy. However, viewers of the film have noticed that in subsequent materials, like the trailer, that it features some shots that were never shown in the final movie, as well as promotional material containing screenshots of scenes that never were shown in the film. Most of the deleted content does look that it was fully finalized and rendered, but it's never been featured on any home media release, which is a little bit surprising as the Shark Tales DVD does feature a fair amount of bonus content. So why not throw in the already fully finished deleted scenes? Flushed Away was the final collaborative movie project between DreamWorks and Aardman. Shortly afterwards, both organisations parted ways. after agreeing that maybe both parties were not as compatible, and while both have seemingly split on good terms, animation fans do ponder on how much direct control Aardman had on Flushed Away, as out of the three DreamWorks/Aardman productions, Flushed Away does seem to be, to put it bluntly, the most Americanized out of the three of them. Small sidekick critters and pop culture references.
Have you seen my dad?
Hey, he's referring to the other cartoon, The Gingerfish. These gags certainly seem to be more fitting in line with a DreamWorks production than from what was being seen from the first two Aardman productions. Additionally, it's the only one that's fully CGI, rather than Aardman's traditional stop-motion style. But to be fair, Aardman Studios did recently burn down at this point, and the water effects were far more simpler to render in CGI, rather than doing it frame by frame with physical stop motion. So we could give Aardman the benefit of the doubt that these may have been a contributing factor as to why they went fully CGI, rather than receiving some notes across the pond. Now, not to say the film is a complete write-off, as there is a small cult following for the movie, and a lot of adorable fan artwork of Rita and Ronnie. Some of it is a little bit more cheekier than this, but hey, we won't divulge into that today. But generally, Aardman fans agree that it's not one of the studio's strongest movies that they've ever made. But the behind the scenes is certainly an interesting talking point. Which, speaking of which, originally in the film there were going to be two butler hamsters, named Gilbert and Sullivan, who lives with and aids Roddy. One of the biggest plot points of the film is that despite Roddy being a house pet, living a big luxury lifestyle, doing whatever he wants, he's quite a lonely character, and he realises that Rita in the story actually completes him. But what about the hamsters? Don't they complete Roddy in a similar family unit? With the butlers only adding to the third wheel of Roddy's isolation, it was decided to simplify the overall message to remove them out. But this was an extremely late addition, as they did feature in the trailer, and can be seen in the Flushed Away video game. But any finalised animations or even working storyboards were never released on any of the movie's home media releases. Okay, so if you saw the thumbnail, you knew this was coming. Say it with me, everybody. Shrek is love, Shrek is life. Just shortly prior to the release of Shrek 2, Katzenberg had revealed plans for at least 3 more Shrek sequels. Apparently these were planned in the post-production stage of the first Shrek movie, while Katzenberg didn't exactly elaborate on what the plot of each films were going to be. He did at the very least stated that the 5th movie was going to explore the backstory of Shrek, like the small details on how he precisely came to the swamp, etc, etc, and the Shrek movies would conclude by the 5th entry. Scripting for Shrek 4 began as early as 2005, just prior of the pre-production for Shrek the 3rd, with Tim Sullivan hired to pen a story outline for the movie. Although after 1 year in production, he was replaced by Darren Lenke and Josh Kloschner. The title was initially announced in late October of 2007 as the somewhat pun name Shrek Goes Forth, but it was after within a year of production of the film, Katzenberg, looking over the story, felt content that this would be a fitting final chapter for the Shrek series. The news would finally come to the public by May of 2009, only just over a year before the release of Shrek 4. Now retitled, still using the number 4 as the pun name, Shrek Forever After. Although by 2014, 10 years after the initial announcement of a 5th Shrek movie, that Katzenberg revealed on Fox Business Network that the 5th entry still may very well be on the pipeline, stating that the franchise was just having a small rest in the meantime. But by the following year, making another movie of the billion-dollar franchise certainly didn't seem like a bad investor's move, as the company over the period of 2014 lost about $247 million. This led to a major internal restructuring of the corporation going forward. By consequence, they had to downsize by laying off many of their employees, and led to the cancellation of many of their projects. In 2016, the company was sold to NBC Universal for $3.8 billion, with plans of making the 5th Shrek movie instantly going into effect, reported to be released in either 2019 or 2020. But as of the time of recording this in 2022, those dates have come and gone with no Shrek 5 being released. But according to the very trustworthy site Looper.com, that Shrek 5 is going to be released by the end of September of this year, despite there being no trailers, advertisement, or even official confirmation from DreamWorks themselves. Basically, I'm not holding my breath too much. Former Austin Powers screenwriter Michael McCullers wrote his own idea of Shrek 5, roundabout Universal's purchasing of DreamWorks. When he was interviewed in 2017 by The Hollywood Reporter, he indicated that his script was a big reinvention of the Shrek franchise, but was unable to elaborate any further. This has led to some to speculate that this movie may be a reboot of the Shrek series, but it's not been confirmed or endorsed by anybody official. But it's fairly safe to say that, judging by the wording that Michael has done his own idea on the story, that this version may be very distant from the one that was conceptualized back in the early to mid 2000s. Presuming if there was any work done on Shrek 5 that early. Who knows if we'll ever get any more confirmation from this early in the Shrek franchise. Going back to The Hollywood Reporter, judging by the wording of the interview, he seems fairly distant from the project now, with the script up to Universal if they want to pursue it. So who knows if this will end up being the version we'll end up seeing. It's a little too early to say if there's any lost media to a movie that hasn't been released yet, so we'll wait and see. But personally, I wouldn't be surprised if the behind the scenes politics was the same convoluted mess as the Chris Farley Shrek.